Okay, perfect. I'm going to kick it off. So hi everyone, it is such a pleasure to welcome you to our webinar, The Accountant's Pathway to High Value Work. Today we have guests listening in from around the world, so good morning, good afternoon or good evening. We are very excited to have you with us today. I'm Michelle from G3G and I'm dialing in from a sunny but cold South Africa, and I also just want to wish you all a very happy Africa Day. I'm always tasked with the housekeeping rules and introductions, but I must say, I think everyone joining today can recite the household rules of a webinar out of their heads just by attending thousands of these over the past 3 years. What still gets me excited though is that it is a fantastic way to connect, collaborate, and share knowledge. With that said, I'm not going to give you the ordinary rundown on how Zoom works, but I would please like to encourage participation with our speakers and other attendees. Please ask your questions in the Q&A section for our speakers and share your thoughts in the chat section. Samantha, G3G's Customer Experience Executive, is ready to join in on the conversation there. And as always, the webinar is recorded and will be shared with you. Contrary to digital transformation we have undergone in the past few years, many businesses are still not fully digital. It presents a number of challenges and potential risks, especially when it comes to accounting, fraud, missing documents, error-prone reporting, and perhaps money left on the table or no cash flow at all. According to a recent Gartner survey, CFOs and financial managers are planning to prioritize back-end office automation, such as accounting automation, in the face of rising inflation, a rather bleak economic outlook, but also for the possibility of greater operational efficiency. But what does this now mean for the finance and accounting department? You have the opportunity to gain greater insight and make better recommendations to your management team because you are free to do higher value work instead of mundane and tedious tasks. Lucky for you, we have teamed up with DOKKA, the autonomous AP automation software that makes invoice processing a breeze, and it fits into any accounting stack, including SAP Business One. It allows you to quickly extract information from invoices in any format. It automates journal entry creation, validation, and processing. So this opens up the door to evolving the perception of the accountant to that of a trusted advisor and consultant within the business. Here to tell you more is our very own Ian, joined by Eric and Daniel from DOKKA. Ian has been part of the G3G furniture as the head of SME unit and been part of the ERP journey since Business One landed in South Africa in 2006. Daniel is the partner executive at DOKKA, and by roping G3G in, we can attest that he is a skilled relationship builder, contract negotiator, and business development manager with a focus on providing exceptional customer service. Eric is the CRO at DOKKA and is a serial high-tech entrepreneur with a diverse range of experiences. He holds a bachelor's degree in accounting and a postgrad degree in e-commerce. And by combining his financial and expertise with his deep understanding of the digital landscape, he is definitely your go-to person when it comes to accounting automation. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation, and please join in at any time by submitting your questions or having a chat to Sam. Ian, over to you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for the introductions. Gents, welcome to today's session, and thank you for your time. I think we're going to jump right into it, and automation has become a buzzword in all of our industries, and accounting is no exception. So, based on your experience, how has automation tools transformed the role of accountants in recent years?
Okay, so Dan, let me go first, and I think you've also got a lot to say on this topic. I remember sitting with a bookkeeper probably about 15 years back, and he tried to catch up with a couple of months bookkeeping for me. And the process was, to say it bluntly, it was archaic. He made mistakes entering the data. He took ages on each document. He couldn't remember which GL he had processed the invoice from. And when he had questions for me, I was in meetings. He was trying to call me. The process with cloud accounting first transformed the entire industry. And now the automation tools that we're starting to see, and obviously which DOKKA is part of it, is transforming the industry entirely. And so the best way of actually explaining what's happening is to say what the big accounting firms are talking about this. So I've got 3 quotes. Must know these accounting firms. PwC has said, in the next 2 decades, we will witness a complete transformation of the accounting profession. Complete transformation. Deloitte says we're on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally change the way we do accounting. And KPMG says the accounting industry will undergo a significant shift in the next 20 years as automation AI become more prevalent. And so if you think about what's happened in the last 10, 15 years, there's been a transformation that all of us believe is fundamental and transformational. And yet I believe that we've only seen the tip of the iceberg so far. I think that what's happening at the moment is going to transform. And it's not only obviously on the accounting side. Every industry is going through this transformation, but because we're involved in the accounting and the finance space, we're seeing so clearly what's happening here. And it's exciting to see how the industry is changing. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think exactly what Eric mentioned, underlying the significant and fast change that is going on in the industry. It even brings the concept of saving time to the finance team even into a more critical role, because they need to scan the macro environment to see how things are changing and how things are affecting accounting. So yes, giving the accounting team the ability to concentrate on more fundamental tasks is definitely one of the aspects in this field.
Yeah, thanks, Jens. I also think that the role of the accountant becomes then more of an advisory role as well, and not just a numbers crunching role.
What do you think of that, Dan?
Yeah, most certainly. I've been speaking to some of our clients. A lot of them are located in South Africa as well. And it boils down to real-time reporting. People want to start management reports within the first kind of week after month end, and the ability to have the real-time reports and focus on actually what they're processing. So before, people were loaded with thousands of invoices, and the main aim and focus was to process these invoices. Little did they know who the invoice was, or who was it for, or what were they were actually doing. But now I believe I got feedback that the bookkeeper is actually analyzing the invoice. Do we really need to pay this invoice? Is it critical to the business? And it's adding a lot of high value to the business as a whole.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I actually think you can break it down into 3 different benefits that the accountants and the bookkeepers and the CFOs will all get out of it. The first is autonomous accounting. The system will do the work for you and not for you. The second is digital transformation. So it's becoming a unified system. There's seamless communication, and you're not getting this fragmented tech stack where different systems have to work together and try fit in. And the third is no-touch reporting. Just like you said, Dan, you can always make smart decisions and stay audit ready when all the information is updated and at the tip of your fingers, and you're not like having a backlog of information. So I think the benefits that the companies are getting out of the transformation on how this automated accounting is moving forward is definitely going to benefit the entire industry.
Okay, great. So now we've looked at the benefits, and so when accountants transition from this traditional process to automated processes, what are some of the challenges that they typically face?
With any improvements, there's always challenges, and I think the challenges over here is buy-in. I think that people don't like change, and especially in large businesses, SMEs, enterprises, people get used to working in a specific way. So usually what would happen is that the accountant would see the automated product and they would get very excited about it and they would want to implement it, but then they need to get buy-in from the rest of their team. And it's not just the accounting team, they need the greater team to get involved. And so it really does require the accountants, together with the automated accounting software product, getting the greater company more excited and training them and getting the usability going so that people really understand not only like how to use it, but why they should be using it. And so getting the accounting bookkeepers on board, I believe, is a relatively easy step because it's going to make their lives easier. We already discussed all the benefits. Getting the greater company involved, they need to understand why they should be using new software as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, go Daniel.
Absolutely, I agree with Eric that the fundamental kind of issue here is change management, which as technology grows, companies have to take cognizance of. But I think another fundamental issue is data integrity and access to data, which is a whole new field. Companies putting their information on a platform and not wanting to kind of, wanting to have that old focus of hugging their data, whereas DOKKA, being ISO 27001 certified and dealing with 4 out of the top 10 big accounting firms as well, really has all the mechanisms in place to handle your data. So it's also around change management, around data integrity and access to data, to put in specific controls to make sure that your data is safe and secured.
So it also seems that there's a bit of an educational side to it as well to get accountants on board, and then from there on get the rest of the organization on board as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But as I said, I think that once people see how it's going to benefit their lives, especially the accountants, they get excited. And we haven't found too much resistance from our side getting both the accountants and bookkeepers and the greater company on board. I think it is a process, but I don't think it's a daunting process. I think it's just a progression and it happens naturally.
Okay, great. So now that we've got the accountant on board and the whole organization is on board as well, there might be, there's the numerous tasks in the organization that can be automated. So how can accountants effectively identify those specific tasks that can be automated?
So let me start off by maybe going through some of them that come off the top of my head that could be automated, or when we talk about automated, it also could be on how they're transforming or changing their process to be more efficient. So some of the things that come to mind, first of all, workflow automation. There's a lot of process around that. The data processing, I mean, that's essential to take that data from an unstructured format and turn it into structured, create recommended bookkeeping entries, be able to get into the GL. I mean, that whole term is obviously AP automation, but there's even more to it. The documents, when they come in, creating a document management system automatically so you can find the documents later on. And it's really important that it's not just the vendor name or the pricing information, but for example, if you can't remember the vendor name 2 years later, but you remember something you bought, you would want to easily be able to find that document. The approval flows, very important. What about the reconciliation? Being able to actually reconcile all the different documents you need automatically, analysis and reporting, being able to actually streamline that process. Daniel's already spoken about making that real time, absolutely essential to have all the data at the tip of your fingers. And one of the things that a lot of companies don't think about when they think about AP automation is the chat and the collaboration. So much time in the past has been wasted by companies having their accounting teams trying to liaise with one another. So asking questions to each other, also going to the greater company and being able to ask questions. Why was this document put in the first place? And is the amounts correct? And where should it be allocated? So items, some of them are definitely classified as AP automation. Some of them I would classify as greater around AP automation, but all of these elements would transform the way that the accounting and finance team in a business operates. And I think all of them are changing and all of them are essential.
Okay, so we're also then looking at tasks that are normally more repetitive tasks that are particularly very similar to one another that you would look at automating them.
So absolutely, repetitive task is low-hanging fruit. So if you're getting a vendor coming in and it's got a similar type of structure to the document, absolutely that should be automated. You get some businesses where they might have 40, 50, 100 vendors, and every month they're going through and they're doing the same thing. They're allocating the vendor name, and they're trying to find the date, and they're trying to find the amounts, and they're trying to find those different line items, and they're pulling the match it with the purchase order or the goods received. That can be automated. But that's the low-hanging fruit. It's more about the entire system. The entire process can be automated and transformed. And so when I look back now, I go to a company and they still have a room full of LeverArch files, and they're printing every document, and they're trying to scan documents, and they analyzing the document, and they're trying to see where the discrepancies are manually, and they're trying to create these recommended bookkeeping entries manually. I mean, they're wasting so much time. So definitely what you said about repetitive tasks, that's your low-hanging fruit. There's so much more to it that can be automated as well.
Okay, so in the bigger scheme of thing, time saving. Yes, Daniel, please go.
Yeah, and just to add on what Eric very nicely summarized, there is one of the most frustrating tasks for an accountant or bookkeeper is waiting on invoices. And a lot of clients that I've spoken to in the recent weeks have told me that all the stakeholders and vendors and people around the organization essentially feel that they're getting an app for free because the delay that there used to be, you'll be surprised how many people are still delivering physical documents, and the ability to just snap on the document and send it over into the Docker platform have taken away tremendous bottlenecks in time, where they're able to collate and have all the information at hand to complete the cycle of invoice processing and further analysis.
Okay.
So if you don't mind me jumping in quickly and just mentioning one thing, because Ian, you mentioned time saving. Now, obviously time saving is a big thing, and companies will save significant time by transforming their AP process. But there's another element, which is reducing the errors. It's interesting to see that when people actually take a document and they transform that data from the document over to the GL, I mean, turning it basically from unstructured to structured data, mistakes happen. A lot of mistakes happen. And trying to fix that at a later stage is actually time consuming. It takes a lot of time to resolve those issues, and technology is resolving that. So technology is able to then turn the data into accurate representations immediately. And the accountants can always double check that by looking at what the technology has done and do a double check on it. But the amount of errors that are being reduced by transforming the AP process is also essential. So I agree with you, time saving is a very big thing. Reducing errors is another thing that I'm seeing a big change on.
Just to add on what Eric said, it's not just reducing errors, it's reducing future errors. A lot of accountants, unfortunately, they make the same mistakes. So one mistake reoccurs, and this kind of takes a lot of time. So the beauty about artificial intelligence in accounts payable automation at DOKKA is that the system will actually learn and get smarter from the way you use it. So all your current mistakes that you've identified, you've stopped those mistakes from coming in 5, 6, 7 times in the near future.
Actually, I have to tell you a story now. Sorry, Ian. But it really brings back a memory of about 15 years ago, where I used to get my income statement balance sheet each month, and I would be taking the GL and allocating all the different codes. And what got me every single month is there would be a vendor, and they would be allocated to a different general ledger account month after month. So one month would be entertainment, the next month would be admin. And that was the part that irritated me, because I'm a little bit OCD in that. I like the exact same GL code to be allocated to the vendor every time. And one of the things that technology obviously resolves is it knows where it should be allocated. And so you don't get those issues coming up. And so you get more accurate reporting as well. And so it really was a big deal to me. I used to get so upset seeing those inaccurate representations.
Yeah, because I mean, like you mentioned as well, the information that you then get out of that, the inaccurate information then also causes mistakes further on when it comes to decision making. Because I mean, you use financial information as well to make decisions in future as well. So if you've got these mistakes, then decision making on that side also is affected.
what's the phrase they always say? Garbage in, garbage out. So it used to be that people would come with these beautiful, elaborate spreadsheets, and then when you analyze the data, it actually didn't always make sense. And now that you've got technology being able to understand what happened in the history, and it's able to actually understand then what it should do currently, I mean, there's a lot of stability, there's a lot of accuracy in how it's doing it. There are two different systems. It's interesting. So there are AP automation systems that try automate the entire process into the accounting software, the ERP. And we actually don't believe in that method because technology is not 100% accurate. It might be 95%, it might be 99%, might even be 99.9%, but there will always be some sort of mistakes. And if you're pushing it directly into the ERP or the accounting software, then if a mistake happens, it's very difficult to be able to find it later on. So what we believe that the process we've done is we'll automatically take all the data, we'll create the recommended entries, and we'll display it over to the accountant, and we'll actually have the document on one side and the recommendation on the other, and they'll double check it. And I think that double check is such a crucial element to the entire process, because if you automate it, mistakes can happen. So obviously you can automate some of the batch processing. If you get a vendor document from your mobile supplier month after month after month, and you can see that the technology is getting it right, that can be automated. But if it's a little bit more complicated or complex, I definitely think the accountant should spend a few seconds to just review it, click that publish button, and then they're confident and happy that the information is 100% correct, instead of like whatever that number is, 95 or 99%.
Okay. So now that we've plucked those fruits that you spoke about, and we're getting very excited, what are the specific examples of high-value tasks that accountants can now focus on?
Dan, you got ideas on this?
Yeah, the focus is all around higher, basically management accounting, management reports, real-time focus on invoice integrity, and trying to actually, like, I spoke to a customer that was actually looked at what invoice they're processing and realized that they had processed an invoice with a 20% increase, which was a mistake, and this has been going on for 6 months. So just the ability to have that time to think and have that time to understand what they're doing. But yes, mainly it's around being available around the organization and higher management accounting kind of decisions, cash flow reports, and everything related, which can add value to the decision-making process. I mean, information is key, and the information that could easily be pulled up, especially on the grid view of the DOKKA system, can really assist with this sort of thing.
Okay, thanks. Eric, have you got anything to add on that?
I think Daniel summarized everything there. I agree with everything he said there.
Okay, great. So the next one thing that we move on to is to say, we've done all this automation and we've spoken about the advantages and everything, but are there any potential risks or concerns that accountants should be aware of when integrating automation tools into their workflows?
So as I said before, I think
Dan, jump in. You go first.
So as I said before, definitely data integrity and access to data, or data, depending where you are from in the world, that is definitely of most importance. A company's information sect is probably its most important asset. But also it's about managing expectations. There's a saying that accounting is where automation goes to die, because number one, each business is so fundamentally different that you can never get an accounting system which will cover. And a lot of people have expectations. Oh, artificial intelligence, it can do everything. Yes, artificial intelligence can do everything, but it can do everything for the purpose of which it was built. In other words, what you're trying to get is something that will reflect the most and all the different items that you have already in your accounting software. So Docker doesn't like to duplicate costs. It's reflecting everything that you have, more specifically talking about SAP in your SAP environment. And so the ability with that connection to bring all the different nuances that each business has is definitely an advantage. But also just to manage expectations. Artificial intelligence is an amazing fundamental game changer in our world today. But because it's not human, it lacks that extra soft touch, which prevents it from becoming 100%.
Okay.
You know, I sit in on many demos that we do for people interested in seeing more and learning more about AP automation. And I always find it fascinating how many, or not how many, that all the companies ask question after question after question about the product and about the platform. And it's always about the detail and understanding the product. And they often don't ask questions about the company. And the AP automation companies are the companies that you're trusting your documentation with. So companies should be asking more questions about the AP automation company itself. So who's involved in the company and how big is the team and where are they storing your documents? Which cloud are they storing documents, and which country or which locations are those documents being stored, and how have they created encryption around safeguarding the documentation? So I've seen that with a couple of our larger businesses, especially like the large global accounting companies we work with or the NASDAQ listed companies we work with, that in the second or third demos, they do start asking for like security documentation reports, and they start asking questions around that, which I think is a critical question. And I find that we don't get asked those questions enough by the SMEs. It usually only happens by those enterprise type customers. I definitely think that if you're an SME, regardless of who you're speaking to, you want to know more about the company itself. You want to really understand how secure the company is and how they're trying to protect your documentation.
Just to add on what Eric said is, a lot of companies, if they knew that there was a human in the loop, they would be horrified. And what Docker does is it solely relies on technology, artificial intelligence, and its ability to maximize those two elements. And just asking, sometimes a lot of systems I've seen, they say, Daniel, why is there 24 hours for this document to come back? And I've told them that a lot of companies have teams in Southeast Asia that are assisting in the automation of their invoices. And if management or if some of the CEOs, COOs out there knew that there was a team, be it in Vietnam or India or any other place where labor is traditionally a little bit cheaper, looking at their invoices and manually doing some of the processing, they would be absolutely horrified.
Okay. Yeah, because if you look at protection of personal information, you look at the GDPR as well, that becomes a major risk at the end of the day for the company itself as well. I do want to mention one quick thing on that, and I don't want to mention names of other companies, but there was a controversy about 4 or 5 years ago where a company was sending all the information not only to a low-cost team in another country, they were sending it to Mechanical Turk, which is basically just a huge number of freelancers sitting around the world. You have no idea who these freelancers are, and they were actually sending the unstructured data to them. So if you're interested, go and do a bit of Googling on Mechanical Turk and AP automation controversies, and it was shocking. It's really, I don't think that's happening these days as much. Well, hopefully not at all in Mechanical Turk, but definitely what Daniel said about sending it to people rather than using technology, that's still happening. And it's definitely a question you should be asking when you're trying to find out about the company. I think it's critical that, Dan. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. I'm gonna throw one last question at you before we go over to a demo. So after all of this, I'm curious, what future trends or predictions do you have regarding the evolving role of process automation in this industry? And Do you think we will eventually go fully autonomous?
Go for it.
Well, will the industry evolve? Absolutely. I mean, I started off by talking about how Deloitte and KPMG, etc., have their views on how the industry in 20 years will be. I think the question that you may be alluding to, in which people are asking, is, are bookkeepers and accountants going to lose their jobs in the future? Because that's really what accountants are really concerned about. That if there's full automation, then where will there be use? And I personally don't think so. There's an interesting website which actually, I can't remember the name. I think it's something along the lines of will accountants be required.com or something. I can't remember the name. And the bottom line is, I don't think so. And I don't think so. I think that accountants and bookkeepers in the past have done too much number crunching, too much just moving data, too much speaking back and forward. I think that by removing that admin, are going to move into more value-added positions. They'll become more strategic and they'll really help the businesses evolve more. And so if you think about it, you might have a CFO which is really dealing with very strategic issues, and then you might have some sort of accounts or bookkeepers below that are making sure that the data is moving accurately through, because as I say, technology is never 100%, but they hopefully will have more time to be able to actually focus on that high-value work. Do I think they're going to go away? Not. I think we're always going to have bookkeepers and accountants.
No, agreed.
Yeah, it's just the question of how far artificial intelligence can go, and that's the big debate around the world at the moment. Some people would like to replace their dating life with a robot, and so it's. I always think kind of that there's going to be a human at some stage in the loop, and even if there's less manual tasks to do, there's still more technology to manage. So, you know, not only managing DOKKA and managing its settings and its place within the organization, but you're going to have other technologies which come into the organization in addition, be it in a financial role, be it in another role, that people will have to upskill themselves in order to manage and collate all these different technologies within the organization.
Yeah, that's a great point that you're making there, Daniel. All right, Daniel, over to you. Can you please take us through a bit of a demo on DOKKA?